Welcome to our very first episode of the Sun Podcasts, where we dive into conversations that matter, share stories that inspire, and explore topics that connect us all. I'm your host, Elincia Whitman, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this exciting journey as we bring fresh perspective, spark meaningful dialogue, celebrate voices in our community. Today, we are kicking off with a special guest, Chirasha, a celebrated poet, book writer, and non-violent activist who is about to launch a powerful new literary work. So let's jump into it. Welcome, Mr. Mbizo.
Thank you so much for inviting me. How are you?
I'm fine. Okay, to start off, can you please tell us about yourself? Who is Chirasha?
Chirasha is a young man who was born in 1978 in Chirasha district by a peasant family or peasant parents. My father's Ngara Totem, Chirasha Totem, Chikandamina Totem. I am cultivated by a community of powerful cultural integrity. We believe in African indigenous culture and tradition in our family. I was powered by the reading culture as I grew up. I started writing a proper English composition at 7 years old. My father was also a historian and an English maverick. He wanted people who write and read English, and also he told me a lot about history. He's one of my inspiration and my cultivation. Furthermore, going fast forward, I have done every work that you think somebody as a man can do. I worked as a head boy, I worked as a garden boy, I worked as a house boy, I worked as a miner, I worked in industry, I worked with NGOs, I worked with the government of Zimbabwe programs, I worked with the media houses, and also I worked with book fairs and book organizations, or writers organizations. My first stint as an official worker in admin work was as the membership drive officer at Budding Writers Association of Zimbabwe, which cultivated my administrative acumen as well as my events coordination acumen. Fast forward, Zimbabwe International Book Fair, SIDA, Zimbabwe, British Council sent me alongside Charles Ngoshi to celebrate 100 best books of Africa and market 100 best books of Africa in Sweden. We toured Nordic African Institute, we toured Swedish Writers Association, we toured Gothenburg International Book Fair, we toured Swedish International Libraries Association. Fast forward, in 2009, I was trained as a UNESCO intensive creative writing course in Tanzania. In the same year, I became the International African Culture and Development in Ghana, Accra, their poet resident. Also, currently, I'm the laureate of Nani Art for Non-Violent Activism, which is actually curated by Partners Global in Washington, D.C.
Okay, so tell me what inspires you to write. Is it a specific experience, people, or culture, or issues that drive your passion?
I'm thrilled by seeing words on paper and speaking words. I have been reading newspapers since at 7, especially commentary, features, and a lot of things. I like politics of global nature, Zimbabwean nature, and African nature. I like African sociology or African cultural integrity. I believe that the only thing that you can save yourself from hardships is writing, reading, and expressing yourself. Yes.
So, what sparks your ideas? Like when you are writing your novels, what sparks your ideas?
My ideas are of intent in the sense that it is sparked by the joy to see a book on the shelves, or to see somebody reading my story. Or I'm sparked by also the quest to share my literal knowledge and my literal dexterity and prowess to the young people of Zimbabwe, and creating a generation of people who believe in writing, literacy development, reading, and a culture of book development, both humanitarian, intellectual, creative, and literary.
So how do you balance fiction and reality?
Right.
No, is the same ideas in reality now, yet you are doing fiction.
I'm the only Zimbabwean who discovered what we call hybrid narratives. These are narratives that are essay in form or short story in form. We call them fiction. There is reality and also fiction. So the twinning of both brings what we call hybrid narratives. Even in my poetry, even in my short stories, even in my book reviews, and in other articles that I write, like personal essays. So that's how I balance the fiction and the reality of this world in terms of my literary work. Also, I believe that we can coin reality into fiction. That is the role of writers. We have that poetic justice or literal justice to really speak out in a way that what we write about can be actually twisted into metaphors, into allegories, into satire, into irony, and into oxymorons and hyperboles. So that's how definitely we coin all such into. You see what I'm talking about?
So what themes do you often explore in your novels?
I write global politics, I write human life, I write social life, I write spiritual work. One of my books is called Pilgrims of Zame. It is a story that carries the momentum of how people go to Matonjeni or Matopos to seek for rain after some times of dry spell or some times of drought and starvation. So the story there is called Pilgrims of Zame. It has people who move from their villages and chiefdoms going to supplicate in the cry for rain to the gods or to the realms of spirituality around Zame or around Matopos or Matonjeni. They speak to the spirits of the land to really bring rain. So I touch again on spiritual history or political history or spirituality. Yes.
So can you give us a hint, like is the masterpiece you are holding to?
Powerful. In October 2024, there came an idea. I realized that why we as Africans or Zimbabwe fight every time, or as young people or as African people fight, it's not because of anything, it's because of poverty. That's why we fight every day. We fight for different things. So I discovered a program called Narrative.
Also, how did you do it?
There is always friction among people in the streets. The friction between communities in farm areas, friction in mineral communities. All those things because of poverty. But in October, I discovered something that sparked me into a big project, Narratives Against Poverty in Africa. It became a tripod program. It is mentorship, it is literary prize, it is an anthology. Also, it is a composition of hybrid narratives, poetry, what we call African bass, and prose, that we call African prose or African fiction. So, I received more than 700 submissions from around Africa. I'm curating and editing this book and we're going to publish it very soon. So this is actually quite a bombshell. It's going to teach us how to collaborate, how to share ideas, how to celebrate African story and African storytelling in a very unique way. And it's both the intellectual, humanitarian, creative, and literal. It's a literal masterpiece. Contributors come from different angles of life. Seasoned journalists, PhD holders in different areas of facets of life, and other writers.
Okay, you said soon. When is that soon?
Let's say before the 15th of December. Yeah, we are already working on the masterpiece in terms of copy editing and in terms of ISBN numbers and in terms of other things that is to do with copyright, things that is to do with book covers and everything, but it's underway.
Okay. So when can people get it after it gets finished?
What we are going to do is that we are going to post it at Lulu, and then we are going to pay for global distribution at Lulu. Which means if you pay for global distribution at Lulu, the book will be featured at Barnes and Nobles, Lulu itself, Lulu Bookstore, Amazon, Book Riot, and different other spaces that is to do with book archiving and other things like that. But also we are going to make this book in print. And we are not going to sell it. We are going to give it to authorities that we are going to give it to the government of Zimbabwe, we are going to give it to the Parliament of Zimbabwe, we are going to give it to the ministers here, we are going to give it to other schools, we are going to give it to the media houses, we are going to give it to the UN agencies, we are going to give it also to other universities that really touches on African studies. Universities like Oxford, Cambridge, Birmingham, New York University, Rhodes University, South Africa, that really deals with a lot of writing and art. And also we are going to share it with book fairs. So we are not going to sell this book. only online, and it's going to be very cheap.
How much?
We're going to have prices between $3 and $5, so that this book reaches the whole continent and the whole international community.
Okay, so what has been the biggest challenge for you as a writer, as a poet?
Right. One of the biggest challenges is to grow. You start. Kumbare was coming from Mbare, living in a cabin with one trousers and slippers, and one sheet to sleep over. I remember you could see feces flowing. My pipes were broken that time in Mbare. Where I was staying, there were 16 cabins. So my cabin was number 16. It was facing the latrine, which was a pit latrine. So the challenges were to grow, to cultivate yourself into a commercial artist, into a commercial writer, into a commercial performance poet. And the challenge was to be received. You're a poet, what is that? What does that mean? NGOs will ask you that question. Some people in the embassy would ask you that question, but I would walk from Mbare to embassies, Namapata to actually go and get performance spaces, and I got it. I was supported by Charles Makari, who is also a writer who wrote a book called Rider Kushinga. He was the PR manager, he was the PR diplomacy officer for Iranian embassy. That time Iranian embassy was heading dialogue among civilizations. It was also a collaboration with them and the United Nations. And that was my entry into UN spaces. I became the poet in resident of United Nations Information Center, UNDP, UNFPA, Population Service International, NASA, and other organizations. From there, I went up, but I told myself that I shouldn't only be a voice poet. I should start reading and writing. So I used the libraries like World Bank Library, USS Library, British Council Library, City Library to read and match writers of older generations. Most of them were professors and PhD holders. So I read extensively. I also watched movies. So the greatest challenge is also knowing that you know what you want to do. And the greatest challenge is also adversity among people. Cinema writers in some spaces who feel challenged when they see the hit of or the growth of another artist. And some of them start creating stories about you so that they don't feel comfortable in your presence because you know what you do. So this is a community of that's how the world is all about. So the challenges are adversity. We have a lot of adversity that we face from our own underwriters. Another thing is to get exposed in terms of publicity, but I was lucky very much because I have a very thunderous respect to media people, to journalists. So I was lucky to have a friend, an entertainment editor called Marcus Wanda, was writing for Daily News. Team like Masimbakari Koga Herald, Tichaona Zindoga Herald, Koduri Muzari Herald, Teres Mapurusana Herald, Tishas Mabasa Herald, Wanda Guchu Herald, Tatenda Tifungutsa Yedas Herald, and there's this, may his soul rest in peace. One young man who was actually writing also my views. And also there were people like Inmira, Standard, Masimbabiri Watcher Standard, and ZBC, I had friends there. So I'm a darling of a lot of media people. So I was lucky to be shot in front. So I used to compliment what they write about me by working so hard. I work with what we call 15-year plans. In 2005, I told people that I want to be a national poet in 2020, and I broke into the international stage. In 2020, I became the UNESCO RILA affiliate artist, recognized by UNESCO but attached to Glasgow School of Education in Scotland. I also became the international fellow of Fictional Cafe in USA. I also became the director of African Secretariat of the United Nations International Human Rights Art Movement. And now I write for World Literature Today, for Literature Review in Germany. World Literature Today is in Oklahoma University. Yeah, so I also run my own content documents, like my own content blogs. I run about 6 blogs. I update them almost every week. So another challenge is forcing yourself to work hard, time discipline. And it forces us to drink a lot. You see, sometimes the hand is all break down. But after a lot of that hard working, both administration, collaboration, curatorships, writing, you need to forget, you have to flash out all that kind of. But we don't advise people to drink a lot. But for me, it is in my blood. It is part of my DNA. not because I like it, but it just happens. My great grandfather would change Rwanda, zairuka Rwanda ni masa ne zingoto zibiri zedoro zendari, and we are regenerated and generated from people who believed in African indigenous songs, African indigenous culture, African indigenous opakubia, Dorema Funde, Dorul Kweza, Dorure Munga. Alright.
Yeah. Lastly, what advice would you give to young people or aspiring writers?
My advice is that you should work hard. We have a lot of pressures that we face in the world. Family pressures when you decide to be a writer. The wife would like bread and butter issues in the house, but you want to go and write a story at some internet cafe or in some library. But they're waiting for me in your home. That's another big challenge. So you should also learn how to balance family life, social life, and literal life. And also learn how to work hard in terms of putting resilience to all pressures that you face as a human being. There is nothing called right forever, good forever. Life is made of good and bad. Life is made of right and wrong. Life is made of pressures and non-pressures. So you should also be able to withstand whatever comes across you. Be vigilant, be strong. Face your enemies. Refuse to be lied against. Don't throw yourself under the bus by becoming lazy and not read. Throw these phones away. Go in the library and read. Create your own voice, your own writing style.
And this generation last one.
Also, marry, find somebody cultural to stay with, and have children, so that you have something to live on the way. So that's my advice to young people.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chirasha, for coming and sharing your journey and insights with us. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. That's all for today on the Sun Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on all platforms at the Sun Newspaper for more aspiring conversation. Until next time, I'm Elintia Whitney signing out.